It was a year ago, the first semester of my university career, when I had my encounter. Seeing as my university was in the city and a good hour and a half drive from the west suburbs of the city, I had no choice but to live on campus. Not that I minded it. My roommate was nice, albeit a ghost roommate, as he was gone for long periods of time. Consequently, I'd spend a majority of time in my friend's room, up on the second floor of the dorm. He and I, as of this year, are roommates now with another close friend. Being as I was a resident student, my tuition was significantly higher than commuters. As a result, I applied for an on-campus job to get some income for books or for my own personal spending. I applied and got a weekend job as a recycle tech, a glorified name for someone in the school's housekeeping and facilities workforce. I was instructed to throw away the garbage of the dorms and occasionally the bathrooms. Those were a horror story in of themselves. Who could live like that? Let's just say that I lost a lot of respect from my fellow students and pitied their families. For the most part, however, it was fine, since I usually finished my rounds in the first 2 hours of my shift, out of a total of 5 on either given weekend day, so I could relax in my room, still on the clock. On occasion, my co-workers, all adults working either part-time or full-time, and I would have to do setups in the conference rooms and that sort for meetings and events. Many times, those setups required us to take the main elevator to the basement, beneath the main building. The basement was only accessible either by the stairs or elevator. However, both needed a key to open the doors at the bottom of the stairs, or for the elevator to bring us down. The basement was not exactly how I envisioned it to be when I first went down there around the second week of school. It was not one large room like a house basement with boxes and other school-related equipment. When you exited the elevator, which was an old bellhop-like device, you entered a long hallway which stretched left to right for a good 200 feet to the left and 500 to the right. The hall was the only brightly lit part of this place. It was totally not what I expected, not just in its size, but the sound as well. It was not silent as I thought at first. When I entered the basement, was how loud it was. We had to shout in order to hear each other. The basement has a number of generators that made roaring sound, and the sounds of heating systems and the elevator rooms made the room deafening. It was as loud as the fire alarms going off. The building was constructed many decades ago, so the furnishing of the lighting and decor were reminiscent of the 1960s. Pale yellow tiles for the floors, pale brown for the brick walls. It was old, very old. Along the halls were a series of 12 or 14 garage-sized doorways that opened up to storage rooms the size of full-size tennis courts. Not the individual ones, but the whole enclosed fenced ones, with several games could go on at once. They were used to store unused furniture, cabinets, maintenance equipment, and the usual things you'd expect for a storage facility of a university. Unlike the hallway that they opened up onto, the rooms were exceptionally dark. What I mean by this is, imagine you're in a house garage at night. You might have a single bulb in the ceiling for light. Now imagine that light being a very old, incandescent, with barely the lighting power of a match. That was the strength of the lighting in those rooms. There were islands of these tiny orange glows scattered in the room, barely lighting the objects around them. For some of the regular used rooms, there would be a light switch that would light the room entirely in bright fluorescent light, like a normal room, albeit for one room in particular with a large workbench in the centre. I remarked to a co-worker that it reminded me of an evil doctor's lair, to which he laughed and agreed. Other rooms were not so lucky to have a working light switch and were left to darkness. Most of the basketball court-sized rooms towards the end of the right side of the hall, looking out from inside the elevator, were deserted rooms. Many were locked and could not be entered. One in particular was always chained shut, except for 2 times during my time. The first time was when we had a set-up and needed to get a special velvet chair from the room. It was nicknamed the Cage, due to a cage in the area near the entrance to the near corner of the room. It had not been used in several years due to its obsolete purpose of storing furniture, since most furniture was stored in closer rooms to the elevator, so most of the stuff in the room had been there for years, unchanged. The room was also larger than the others from the basement layout map hanging on the housekeeping office. One of my co-workers that worked there for over 30 years said that the Cage was clogged with hundreds of discarded chairs and sofas. It was a trek, just manoeuvring around them. The first time I saw into it, poor light cast its silhouettes that spooked me from my peripheral vision. But since there were other people around, I felt at ease. However, the second time I saw that room, I was not so lucky. One day, I had to go to the basement to check on inventory on the amount of round, collapsible tables were set up later that day, alone. This got me flustered. My co-workers, who I had friendly relations with, teased me and said it was sort of an initiation into the housekeeping service at the university to go work down there alone. It was late into the semester, and the weather was now cold. It was dark outside, almost like night when I needed to go down there. Entering the basement with a clipboard in hand and a small pocket flashlight, I went to count the tables in the room closest to the elevator. I felt so paranoid when I was counting. I just wanted to be done with this and back up to the surface. About 4/5 of the way down, I got a phone call from my supervisor. He asked if I could bring up 3 tables. I happily obliged and quickly hauled 3 tables onto the moving cart. For whatever reason, as I waited for the elevator to come down from the 4th floor, I decided to explore. The absolute paranoia and fear must have given me a full courage. Walking into each room, I noticed nothing out of the ordinary, just more equipment and tools and workshops in the rooms. When I went into each room, my fear slowly began to vanish as I got used to exploring the deafening loud and dark rooms. Occasionally, a loud and sudden noise from the generators or boilers made me nearly piss myself, but it soon made me laugh in exasperation. Eventually, I made my way to the Cage, skipping the several locked rooms I could not access. I exhaled and walked in, trying desperately to see with the little flashlight I had. Taking my phone, I turned on its flashlight app and found myself slightly more at ease. The room was indeed like my co-worker had said. It was like dodging and weaving. If a killer was done here, I'd be screwed trying to run away. I just couldn't in this room. Pushing the thought away, I reached the end of the room, about a basketball court away from the entrance to the room. It was at the back of the room that I noticed that the room did not end there. In the corner was a corridor that opened up to a second room, hidden behind a really old bookshelf that did not look like it had been moved in a long time, since I had to wiggle it from the hard crust around its base. I was weary of this, and being as paranoid as I was, grabbed a metal pipe that was leaning on the side of the wall. Entering the second room cautiously, my heart began beating even faster than it already was, and a cold shiver ran up and down my spine. The concrete room was completely empty, just bare, save for a soft light and an incandescent bulb lighting the room in dull yellow light. In this second room, there was an open hole in the wall, raised up a good 3 feet in a square shape, 5 by 5 feet. It must have been a maintenance tunnel going underneath the school, since I could see from a distance into the dark tunnel the heating vents going on and disappearing. I was expecting something like that. All the colleges had them. But why was this in a separate room in the back of another? On the walls around the tunnel entrance, there were also doors. Heavy industrial-grade doors, like in a warehouse in the room. I rationalised them as being maintenance closets, or maybe storage lockers. My family's apartment has storage closets in the basement of the apartment complex. They were all locked with massive padlocks on them. I jerked around to see if anyone was behind me. Thank goodness there wasn't, or else I'd have shit all over the floor. However, when I turned back and got closer, my blood ran cold. What made these doors more disturbing to me, at least, was the edges of them. They were welded shut, but not from the outside. I knew how welding looked like. The melted metal did not bulge outwards. The doors were welded from inside. This greatly disturbed me, since it meant that there was something of substance behind them. Why would someone weld them shut? And why from the inside? I was shaking like a tree in the wind as I sat back from the mysterious doors. When I walked back, I saw something move in my peripheral vision. At least I thought. Again, my paranoia might very well have been trolling me. I jumped and tensed in the greatest fear I had ever experienced. It had come from the maintenance tunnel. As scared as I was, my curiosity got the better of me. I walked to and stood in front of the entrance to the tunnel. The tunnel went up to my chest. I flashed my light into the tunnel to the side, sweeping from left to right. The bottom of the tunnel was sand or loose gravel. I could see the bottom of the floor above, and it was pitch black. My cell phone's flashlight only pierced maybe 10 or 15 feet. Beyond that was complete darkness. From what I could tell, the tunnel went on for a long while. I was half expecting something to jump out at me, but nothing did. Instead, I saw him, turning my flashlight directly in front of me, directly into the tunnel from the entrance. My breath was caught in my throat, and I felt nauseous. There was a green and white lawn chair facing away from me, just out of reach of my light. It disturbed me, but didn't scare me. What did was who was sitting in it. A large figure, pale skin, wearing a flannel shirt and jeans, was just sitting there, perfectly still and facing away from me. I heard no breathing, no sign of movement. I was not even sure if it was human. It was almost like a mannequin, since it had such a tenseness to it. Its head was out of sight from the light, but I could vaguely see an outline of a bald and malformed pinhead. Not overtly deformed, but unsettling nonetheless. I looked at it for only maybe 2 or 3 seconds, for I backed up slowly, shivers flowing down my spine. It didn't speak, not even seeming to acknowledge my presence. I was on the verge of shedding tears and chanted Hail Marys in my head, despite being a non-believer. Reaching the corridor, I quickly made a power walk out of the cage into the elevator. I kept looking back, expecting whoever it was to be bolting down the hall after me. But there was no one. I quickly entered the elevator with the tables and ascended to the first floor. I said nothing, didn't even breathe until I reached the boardroom where my co-workers awaited me. I quickly lost my resolve and broke down telling them of the whole thing. The room, the doors, the man in the chair, everything. 2 of my co-workers went down to the basement to investigate, while the others comforted me. When they came back up, they told me that the tunnel I saw the man in was empty. There was no chair or man, and nothing in the rooms were out of place. Either he had gone deeper into the tunnel, or somehow went into the elevator and escaped after me when I was talking to them. They called public safety and did a sweep and found no one, or even any evidence of it. After that, I refused to go down in the basement alone, and even when I went with others, I still have an anxiety and feeling of being watched. That not knowing made me horrified. Why was someone sitting in the dark in a maintenance tunnel in the basement of the university? It didn't make any damn sense. To this day, I still work for housekeeping, but I haven't seen the man in the tunnel since that late autumn day last year. So, to the man in the tunnel, who or whatever you are, let's not meet. Hey guys, if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. You can also leave a comment below. All feedback, good or otherwise, is always appreciated. If you have any creepy stories of your own, or have any topics that you would like me to cover, feel free to send them in via any of my social media. You can find all links to my social media in the description below. Until next time guys, make sure you lock your doors, stay safe, and I'll see you next video.